So good afternoon. Just two of you, but that's okay. We'll make this available on YouTube for everybody. This will be short today. So I want to show you, I want to demonstrate myself, show you how to do some finishing touches on the Retouch Restore assignment, which is your final assignment. That'll be due in 2 weeks. So after, today. And I also have a video on a little bit more on retouching and restoring. So what I want to do today is to show you some finishing touches that you can apply after you've done all the difficult work in restoring a photograph. But there might be just a little bit more that you can do to really dress it up just a little bit more and make it look a little bit better. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, okay, which I'm already doing. So let me go ahead and, no, I'm not. I'm just recording. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There we go. So here's a couple of examples of that I have. This is a good black and white image that has been retouched and restored, okay? So you can see that it's a bit faded. It has some severe cracks, but fortunately, most of the cracks are not in any critical areas, specifically the face. That's probably the hardest part to retouch. So all of the background has been retouched. And for the most part, use a spot healing brush. You can use the clone stamp tool and that sort of thing. And also some contrast has been brought out of this, but there's a little bit more that can be done with this, just a little bit more. So what I want to show you is how I would do that. And it looks, if we look at the final version on the right, it looks good. And, we could say this is done. But I think just a little bit more could be done. You'll notice that a little bit more could be done down here, that all of the crack in the photograph wasn't restored, but I'm not going to focus on that right now. So the first thing that I want to do is to, and we do, as we do almost in every case, is to copy this layer. So we're not working on the background layer. I don't want to do anything to the original version here because it's already been cropped and the white area here has been restored to background, and it's been cropped and rotated a little bit so that excuse me, that's been removed or been added to it. So this is what I want to show you how to do. So there are various things that could be done to this. Now, there's good contrast, but maybe a little bit more could be added to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by using the rectangular marquee tool and select just this area right here. And as a reminder, when you're retouching and restoring your work, I want you to show the history of everything that you've done and turn in the original Photoshop file so that I can see pretty much what I'm doing now, even in the final stages, everything that it's done. So I'll hit Command J, and you can see that that just leaves this right here. Now I can leave these on if you want, but it's really not necessary. So maybe one more thing that I could do, a couple more things, is that I want to see if I really have maximized the lightness and darkness of this photograph. So one of the things that I could do is add another adjustment layer, and I'm using curves. So let's find the lightest lights in this photograph and the darkest darks and see if that's where we want to go with this. So I'm going to pick down here, which picks out the lightest areas. And that might be in his cheek, Notice that brings that a little bit more and, you know, brightens the photograph up just a little bit. And then I can go back here and finding the darkest darks, and that's probably way down here. Notice that darkens it up even more. So you have to decide for yourself, do you want that much contrast in the photograph or not? I kind of like photographs, maybe because that have high contrast like this. But you know, you may have a different feeling about yours, and that if you want to adhere to something that's has a little bit less contrast, that's okay. But you know, at least explore and try different things out. There's a little bit more that I want to do to this, and it's what I'm going to do to the other image that I have as well. And that is that if you look at the photograph, it's still just a little bit blurry. And you know, that could be because of its age. That could be because it wasn't scanned properly. It could be that it was just slightly out of focus when it was originally taken. Well, we can crisp that up in a variety of different ways. And I'm going to show you one way here. And in another photograph, I'll do something very similar to that. So before I do this, because this will, right now, I mean, everything that I've done is non-destructive. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Shift key and select these three layers. And then I'm going to combine them together. And to do that, I'm going to use the key commands, Shift, Option, Command, E. That's Shift, Option, Command, E. Now I can turn everything off down below, and you can see that I have a combined image of everything here. So what I should do, probably, let me undo that. I'm going to go back, and I don't need this image down here. I'm just going to focus on these two. So I'll just take these two right here. So Shift Option Command E, and now I'll turn off all of the rest of these so that we're just focused on, well, what did I do? I goofed again. So let me go back. I apologize. Let me go back here. Let's turn these two off. I just want this layer and this layer. I thought that's what I did before. Shift, Option, Command, E. There we go. So now if I turn these two off, I just have this combined layer where I've added some contrast to it. But the last step that I want to make is to crisp it up a bit, as I said. So before I do that, one of the things that I can use is under Filters, under Sharpen, I can use Smart Sharpen. That would be one of the things that I could do. That's, well, what was that? Sharpen, there we go. Smart Sharpen. This would be a good one to use. And back in the day, unsharp mask was used, but Smart Sharpen has been added in more recent iterations of Photoshop. That'd probably be a better way to go. But this, if I do this, it's going to be a permanent change, So what I want to do is I want to turn this into this layer into a smart object. So to do that, I go to the layer menu, layer menu. So let's go up to layers. And I'm going to come down to smart objects, and I'm going to convert to smart object. And this can always be rasterized. But remember, when you turn this into a smart object, you'll notice that the icon in the layers menu changes a little bit to the right. It has this little added feature in the lower right-hand corner. So by doing that, now when I add a filter to this, it will be non-destructive, because before, if I were to add it, I could not undo it after I saved the file. So now when I go to Filter and I go to Sharpen and I select Smart Sharpen, a little dialog box pops up, and you can see that it's going to the last settings that I added. and we can turn on and off preview. And I don't know how well you can see on your screen. It's adding a little bit of noise that we probably need to remove. But probably one of the things that you want to do is that you want to crank it all the way up just to see what it does. And it's really kind of going overboard. I mean, you can really see a lot of dithering in this, a lot of noise that's been added, and probably his right eye here is a little bit, too much contrast has been added, it's a little bit too sharp. So you need to kind of go back and forth and to play with it. And I decided on something, pretty close to being in the middle here, around 250%. And that still might be a little bit too much. We can also play with the radius. How much, does that affect? And, where is the blurring? If we bring blurring back in, because this is a low res image, I'm just going to leave it at 1 pixel, maybe a little bit more. 1 pixel is probably fine. And radius, I'm going to come back here and reduce that, or actually the noise reduction. We can go ahead and I can crank that up a little bit, maybe to 15. If you really want to see what it does, you push it all the way to the right, and then you gradually pull it back until you find something, happy, medium. So maybe 10 to 15%. And then again, turn off, on and off the preview. And there is a significant difference between the two. But you'll notice as soon as I apply that feature that we have down here, Smart Filters and Smart Sharpen, that we can turn on and off. And that's what I want to see when you turn in your final project. And if I want to go back at any time and I want to edit this, I can. So let's go back and let's turn on our original photograph. And let's turn this one off, back on and off, and see the difference. Okay. Now, even though this one has been beautifully retouched and all the scratches and all the damage has been removed, I think there's always a little bit more that we can add to it to, brighten it up, add a little bit of contrast, and always crisp it up a little bit and make it a little bit sharper and remove some of the blurring from that. So that's one. Here's another way that we can do this. And here's another image that's been restored that looks pretty good. Okay. Now I've already added some features to this. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn all of these off and I'm going to start all over again. So that this is, back to the very beginning, that all of the cracks, all of the tears, any of the water damage has been removed from this. And that has to do with, we watch a number of videos on various ways of retouching and restoring that kind of damage. And we could say, again, that, well, this is good, we're done. But I think there's a little bit more that we can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate the layer, which is what I've done. I'm going to leave these unchecked and I'll again apply what I had done before. So let's go to adjustments and let's start with curves again. And I'm just going to use the auto settings right now to see what we get. And I think that's a bit of an improvement, And what we can continue to fiddle with this, but the darks really aren't that dark and the lights aren't really that light. So maybe what I could do is add even another adjustment here. And let's add levels to that. And again, I'm going to use the auto settings to see what we do. And we can get a bit more contrast out of that. Now, if you want, we can adjust the dark settings and we can make them even a little bit darker if we want, and we can push the lights and make those a little bit lighter. If we go too far, that might be a bit much. So maybe in here, just a little bit. So I'm just pushing the darks and making them a little bit darker and the lights, making them a little bit lighter, adding contrast to the whole thing. And again, if we turn these off, you can see huge, huge difference. And a lot of what I'm doing now, as I mentioned, is really kind of up to the viewer, determine what they think works best. Now, even though this is a black and white image, there's a lot of color that's in here, a lot of yellows and that sort of thing. We could probably go back in and remove again. But I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to add another one, even one more adjustment layer, and it's going to be brightness contrast. And I'm going to add that one and see if that actually does anything. And it's going through the motions, and it added even more contrast to it. Now, you can, again, you can go back and you can decide, was this enough? Is this too much? But again, these are layers that are non-destructive, so they can always be turned off and turned back on. One more thing that I might do, let's go back again, and because there's kind of a yellowish cast to this that I really don't like, we can go back and we can add a black and white filter to this, okay? To really turn it black and white. Now, if you want to add a tint to it, we can, but it sort of evens everything out. And if you want to, you can come back and we can adjust the reds, we can adjust the yellows, we can adjust the greens. I think it probably had too much yellow, so we could probably lighten that up a little bit, from before. And we have a pretty nice image going on here. Now, the same thing is going on here that we had with the last image. And is that it can be sharpened just a little bit, but I'm going to use a different technique for this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take all of these layers that I've created, start with the top one, hold down the Shift key, and select all of the other ones in between, okay? And hold down the Shift, Option, Command, E, again, to make an image that's a duplicate of everything that I have so far, or not a duplicate, but a combined image of everything so far, but it leaves all the others intact underneath, okay? So what I want to do with this layer now is really kind of a bit different. If I want, I could leave this layer alone and I could duplicate it again, okay? And I could turn off all the layers underneath. It's not that I really don't need them anymore, but again, for our purposes, I like keeping the history of everything. So at any point in the future, if I need to revisit and, if I decide to make changes to anything, I can always go back to any of those layers and go from that point forward and rebuild my image. So I have the finished image here and I've duplicated it. Now I'm going to use the image on top to crisp up or to sharpen the image below. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Filter, and it's okay because I've already duplicated this so many times. I can go to the Filter and I go to Other, and I'm going to use High Pass. And you can see that this looks really kind of bizarre, that it really emphasizes, really pushes the edges of this. And again, if we go down to very little or a lot, I just want something in between. I'm going to go maybe to 5 pixels. I think for my purpose, for my demonstration purposes, this is enough. And again, what I'm doing is I wanted to find the edges, and that will help to create the illusion that this is a much sharper image than the blurred one that we had before. So I'm going to click OK. Now, this is a normal layer. Excuse me, to get this to blend with the layers beneath it, what I need to do is I need to click on here, and I want to use soft light. And by using soft light, what that does is it just, what we have is we've adhered to the crisp, sharp images and nothing else. And as I toggle on and off, Notice that it crisps it up. Now I could probably go back because it's bringing up some of the noise in the face, and I could probably soften that. But to do that, what I'd have to do is I'd have to remove this layer, layer 3 that I created, which was the combination of these, and go back to not the black and white, but I could go to the brightness contrast, or I could go to levels, and I could remove some of the noise that I had created in that. Okay, so there's a little bit of noise that's been added, especially to the face. And again, there's a variety of ways that I could remove that. But again, I wanted to show you just in a very quick way by toggling on and off. And there's that one. I turn this one back on. That it sharpens it up just a little bit. Okay, so that's what I want to show you today. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording of this, and now we're going to switch to another lynda.com video, and that will take us into about a half an hour's worth of more retouching and restoring photographs. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause now, pause the recording. So more on retouching, restoring. That's pretty much it for today. What I will do on Monday is we will have the critique of the our digital paint assignment, where you took a photograph and turned it into a digital painting. So that will be on Monday. And then after the holiday weekend, and I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, we only have 2 weeks left for you to finish this retouch, restore assignment. And I have a quick question here. Is anything due this week? No, nothing is due this week. You have 2 more weeks to finish up the retouch, restore. And I presume, Giovanni, you've turned in the digital painting assignment? Because I will be grading those this weekend, I hope. Okay. Yeah, nothing is due this week. We're just covering lots of, you know, various ways of retouching and restoring photographs. Some of the ones that he has done are really complicated. So if you were to, you know, if you had a similar issue, it would be worthwhile watching his videos and just pausing them and rewatching them and do, you know, follow it step by step, because he does go through these very quickly. And he makes it look very simple, but it's very complicated. He does a, you know, in a very short demonstration, something that might take you hours to do. Anyway, that's all we have for today. So I'll stop the recording, and this will be published soon. If any of you would like this photo restoration, you know, techniques and color casts and fading made available when we're done with our webinar, I will go back and I will record it and make it available for everybody on Canvas. So we'll see. Okie doke. So that's it. I'm going to say goodbye and wish everybody a really nice Thanksgiving. Okay, so bye-bye. I'm going to stop the recording and we're done for this week. Bye-bye.